Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in another video. My name is Julio Perez, and I'm joined once again by my colleague Petr Ankudinov. Today, we'll be covering the AVD Dev highlights for version 6.0, and actually, as of today, the release of version 6.1.
Yeah. Hi, Julio. One thing that I want to mention before we start is that the idea of Dev Highlights is just to give you a very quick idea of what's new in every release. And 6.0 release is huge, so we're definitely not going to touch all the features, and we are going to focus on some changes that we think are critical, but we almost certainly actually miss something. So yeah, go to the porting guide, go to release notes, and actually find the whole list of the changes. So yeah, I mean, rise of AVD 6.0. So AVD 6.0, and so basically comes with a lot of destruction, but also like with a lot of constructive changes. So it's a break-in release, so you have to be ready for that. So like really a lot has changed. Um, the very first thing that you have to keep in mind that requirements were changed. Like we don't have, for example, CVP rag or JSON schema anymore. We are not using Arista CVP collection in the background. So because like the entire functionality that was necessary to communicate to Cloud Vision is now integrated in the core AVD collection. Therefore, like we removed a lot of components, right? And this is actually for good, so because overall it becomes more simple to build a functional environment, and your requirements actually will be way, way, way more simple. Like as an example, I have highlighted here that before in the Ansible CFG you had to include some Jinja 2 extensions. This is not required anymore. Yeah, so but be ready for these changes. So make sure that you pay a bit more attention to actually how you build your environment and actually use this change as an opportunity to simplify. So one other critical component that actually got removed is US validate state. And I want to highlight that specifically just in case someone still was, for whatever reason, still was not using anti-runner, it is time to start using it, right? So there is no EOS validate state anymore. Anti-runner is um, a better option. So please switch and actually start using that for your testing, right? So on top of that, like from the distraction perspective, so a lot of old variables will be that were deprecated already in the previous releases will be removed. I mean, everyone should have received warning for quite a long time, and hopefully clean that even actually before we switch to 6.0. But if you haven't done that, actually just go through the porting guide and find out actually the details of this change. And maybe, Julio, if you can click to show how the porting guide looks like.
For sure. And I have the porting guide open, and just be mindful, the porting guide is very, very extensive. If something has been changed, it is included in the porting guide.
Exactly. So, and it gives you like all possible instructions. So read it through. I mean, it's not a short read, but also not extremely long, and it's very useful. It gives you literally any single instruction you need to convert your inventory to 6.0. If we go back to the slides, one actually last thing that I want to mention that AVD 6.0 also comes with Ansible Core 2.19 support. And basically, like if you are deploying AVD 6.0, you can use Ansible Core from 2.16 to 2.20. It's actually written in the requirements. You can easily find that. However, I mean, be a bit careful with 2.19. So because it's still in the technology preview, and on these pictures that Julio actually just shared, you can clearly see that 2.19 marked as a technology preview. That means certain things can be not actually that stable as in other Ansible releases. 2.20 will be the next general availability versions that people supposed to use. So, I mean, I a lot of people are just a bit more proactive from that side, and they actually migrated to 2.19 even a bit before we have released 6.0. So, and we had no support for 2.19 actually before. Um, don't do actually sudden changes from that perspective. So, because this always comes with some extra advantage that you can avoid, right?
Next up, we have the schema naming changes. So on the back end, we've updated EOS designs and it's been renamed to AVD design. And also EOS CLI config gen has been renamed to EOS config. So why do we do this? This is to improve the clarity of the documentation and error messaging. Um, but it does not require any changes if you're still utilizing this in an Ansible environment. So, for example, the import roles or the roles that are being imported in your playbooks, those have all remained the same. So there's no requirements or updates from that perspective. Next up, we have schema validation is in force. So they're in force on all keys. So in the past, we had this AVD data validation mode warning. So we can kind of continue our builds to get some warnings on some keys that either have been updated or have been migrated. Now it is required. You like need to update your keys, need to update your environments. And the last point, custom keys must start with an underscore.
Yeah, if you have any custom keys at all in your inventory, so you have to start them with underscore, but majority of customers don't have them. So, but I think you definitely have to keep in mind that validation is now mandatory. And definitely test actually your inventories carefully to make sure that you had no weird things as leftover from the past of your AVD inventory, basically. One more thing we have introduced with AVD 6.1 specifically, I mean, as of time of when this recording will be published, it should be already available, is AVD Playground. And you can find a QR code to the video that we have recorded explaining how that works. I think this is a really cool feature. So in essence, every AVD example is now an interactive lab, and you can actually play with that by clicking a button as long as you're Arista customer. If you're not, you can actually download a copy for your local use. And apart from that, we actually have reworked a lot of documentation. I mean, really, like Julio was actually championing that. So, and we have changed the AVD Arista.com layout completely. So there were a number of how-to guides introduced. Also, like we completely worked AVD examples, and we are going to go actually down that path, right? So because we know that one of the biggest challenges for the customers, so when they work with AVD documentation, is like normally they just want to know how to do actually this specific thing, right? So, and this is exactly what we want to give everyone, right? So, okay, so you want to do a specific task, you should get a guide explaining how to do actually this task easily, and an example that you can actually spin as a lab, play with it, and understand that in and out.
Yeah, Petr, you did a bunch of work on the playground. So shout out to you and thank you for all the work on the playground. One of the biggest changes from my perspective is that now COS Lab, as far as the platform, when you run it within AVD, now defaults to management one. For the most part, a lot of the platforms, including VEOS, have always used management one. COS was used or was the differentiator there where it used management zero. Like I mentioned, now it's on one, and the reason is because MA0 is a special virtual interface in EOS. So there's a possibility to break a few things, not only now, but also in the future. Um, this here in the bottom is an example of, say, right now using something maybe like Container Lab to spin up labs, and you want to update that naming. So, for example, Container Lab might use Management Zero still to this day. You might need to do a override or an interface mapping to switch it from using Management Zero to Management One, as far as the way AVD will generate those configurations. So it will build a valid deployment.
Yeah, I just want to add a short comment here. So because just to give a bit of background, right? So we have been actually seeing the problems with management zero for quite some time. Yeah. And the problem is that essentially when someone deployed, first lab with COS, they just, picked this interface as an example, and then everyone was basically using it, right? So although from the technical perspective, management one would be the correct way. So now we just want to change this and basically make this breaking change. I'm telling breaking, so because many labs are potentially using management zero right now. But ultimately, this change is for better, and over time, like container lab, COS lab, and everything will settle on this new default.
If for whatever reason you still want to use management zero, there is also options to override this new addition. So if you don't like using management one, or you're just not ready to make that change, you
Yeah.
can still maintain the management zero functionality.
Exactly. And this override you can do on AVD, like repository level. It's mentioned in the porting guide. Alternative, you can quickly update your lab. Unfortunately, there is no way to, use just management interface in the interface mapping. But you can actually write like pretty generic interface map that you will reuse across your switches. So normally it's quite easy to do.
We won't cover all of these because, again, in the porting guide, they are covered extensively. But some of the breaking ones would be like the direct use of EOS CLI config gen keys that are not allowed. And then probably one of the bigger ones was also in the past, we have defaulted to enabling eAPI. Well, now that's no longer the case. eAPI will only be configured and enabled if specified. So here on the top right there, you can see just the data model essentially to enable eAPI. So keep that in mind, and you'll actually notice that if you're moving from 5.x to 6.x and you run a build, you will more than likely be missing the eAPI configuration block. So be very careful on that. And obviously, like Petr mentioned, make sure to test.
Yeah, apart from eAPI, I actually want to mention a few things. First of all, I want to highlight that direct use of EOS CLI config gen, so which is now called AVD config keys, is not allowed anymore. You should have seen the warnings about it in the previous releases. So, and actually, this is one thing that is super important. Like, if you have a use case for that, so normally, so first of all, you have to check the porting guide, and for majority of the settings, there is like already EOS designs key, right? If it's not present and you really have to use it, you have to use custom structured prefix. Yeah, so it's always documented in the porting guide. So take a look there, but this is extremely important. So you have that actually leftovers, they're not going to work, right? Now, what I also want to mention quickly is I think a very important feature, well, for some campus customers at least, is MTU adjustment for certain platforms. Like we had a lot of issues when, like on some platforms, actually, like there are different defaults. This is now fixed in 6.0, so we're using correct defaults for these platforms, and you don't have to create custom settings to support them. And what else? Yeah, there is a lot of actually nice things. I mean, some of them are mentioned in the porting guide, some on this slide. But I also want to highlight proxy support in CV deploy role specifically. In fact, we had a recording in the past, so where I think we have mentioned that as well. I'm not actually entirely sure, so at least I believe we mentioned that it's in preview. So now it is released. So now if you had struggled because you're using, let's say, Cloud Vision as a service and you have proxy in between, so you can actually go to 6.0 and it will be basically supported. So because many customers were stuck on previous Ansible CVP collection just because of that. So yeah, in 6.0, it's time to move forward because proxy support is there.
Thank you. Thank you, Petr, once again for joining us. Thank you for everyone watching for joining us once again. If you're interested in network automation with Arista, please check out the network automation playlist on the Arista Networks YouTube channel.